want you to close your eyes for a second. Picture the most hostile environment you can imagine. We're talking about a barren, endless desert. It is dead silent. The sun is beating down on you with that oppressive physical weight, and there is absolutely nothing for miles, just beige, cracking earth. But then, right as the sun begins to dip below the horizon, the impossible happens. Out of that shimmering heat haze, a structure materializes. And it's not just any building, it is a castle constructed entirely of solid gold and silver.
Which, I mean, scientifically speaking, should be a hallucination. In that kind of heat, the brain is just desperate for stimuli.
That's the logical assumption, right?
Yeah.
It looks like a mirage, but here's where it gets weird. It's tangible. You can touch it. The walls are shimmering like the sun itself. The towers are crowned with actual physical jewels. But here is the catch, and it is a massive physics-defying catch. This place only exists during the day. The second the sun fully sets, gone, vanished into the ether.
It creates a fascinating and, frankly, terrifying logistical problem. You have a structure that is essentially tied to a celestial timer. It's a bank vault, where the vault itself ceases to exist at closing time.
Today on The Deep Dive, we're unpacking a story that feels like it was pulled straight from the golden age of folklore, but it has some, surprisingly complex psychological layers. We're looking at a piece titled The Midnight Legacy of the Gilded Mirage.
And this isn't just a generic fairy tale. The setting here is vital. We are in the era of Caliph Harun al-Rashid.
Which gives us a very specific vibe.
It really does. For context, this is the height of the Islamic Golden Age. In literature from this period, you often see this tension between incredible, immense wealth and the concept of qadar, or fate. There is this recurring theme that fortune is fleeting, almost like a test. So when we see a castle made of gold that vanishes, it's not just a cool magic trick, it's a metaphor for the transience of worldly power.
And our protagonist fits right into that. He isn't a prince or a soldier. He is a young adventurer from Baghdad. The text describes him as someone always seeking wonders and treasures. Basically, he's the guy who cannot sit still. He's got that itch for the next big score.
Which is a dangerous personality type in this genre. He's driven by curiosity, sure, but there's an undercurrent of greed, or maybe dissatisfaction, with the mundane. He is looking for something that breaks the rules of reality.
So let's get into the mission here. We are going to strip this legend down. I want to look at the narrative arc, obviously, but I really want to dig into the mechanics of this curse, the psychology of our adventurer, and specifically that ending. Because let me tell you, the resolution to this story is complicated.
Oh, it's definitely not your standard hero saves the princess, everyone cheers ending. It's much more transactional.
It starts, as all good bad ideas do, in a caravan inn. Our adventurer is hanging out, probably looking for leads, and an old traveler sits down and drops the story in his lap. He tells him about a castle far out in the endless desert.
I always find these old traveler figures suspicious. Notice how the traveler frames it. He doesn't just say there's a castle. He says, its walls shimmer like the sun, its towers are crowned with jewels. He is selling the fantasy. But then he drops the hook. He explicitly states that every night, when the sun sets, the entire castle vanishes completely, as if it never existed.
And crucially, he adds the disclaimer, inside are treasures beyond imagination, but no one has ever come out alive. Now pause. If someone told me, hey, there's a pile of gold, but everyone who goes there dies, I'm ordering another tea and staying put.
See, that's because you have a survival instinct. But for an adventurer archetype, the danger validates the authenticity of the treasure. If no one has come out alive, that means the loot hasn't been looted yet. It's a high-risk, infinite reward scenario. The warning actually acts as an advertisement.
That is a scary way to look at it. So he bites, he packs his supplies, grabs his camel, and heads out into the burning sands. And the text really labors over this journey. It's not a montage. It says days turn into winks, heat stroke by day, freezing temperatures by night.
It establishes the cost of entry. This isn't a casual stroll. By the time he gets close to the location, the text notes he thought he would die of thirst. He is physically and mentally broken down. This is important because when he finally sees the castle, we have to wonder, is he reliable? Or is he delirious?
And just as he's about to collapse, the sun starts to dip and he sees it. The golden light. It's real. The magnificent castle of pure gold and silver glowing against the darkening sky. And the gates wide open.
Which is the first trap. A fortress usually has defenses. A fortress with open gates implies that the defense is something else entirely. It invites you in because it knows you can't leave, or rather, you can't take anything with you.
He steps inside, and the description here is just sensory overload. The halls are empty and silent, but they are absolutely stuffed with wealth. piles of gold coins, chests overflowing with pearls and rubies. There are swords encrusted with emeralds and golden lamps hanging from the ceilings.
Imagine the shock to the system. He spent weeks in a beige, monochrome desert. Suddenly, he's in a kaleidoscope of emerald and gold. It's not just greed, it's visual intoxication.
He starts filling his bags immediately. The text says his hands were shaking with greed and fear. He knows he's on a timer, but he can't help himself. But then the sun goes down.
Here is where the mechanics of the magic kick in. And I want to highlight the specific language used here because it's terrifying. It doesn't just poof away like a cartoon.
No, it's violent. The castle begins to tremble.
Yeah.
The walls rippled like water.
Rippled like water. That suggests a phase change. The solid matter is losing its structural integrity. It's reverting to a liquid or an ethereal state. The reality of the castle is destabilizing.
And the treasures in his hands start to fade. That's the horror moment. You're holding a diamond and suddenly it's missed. He realizes he's in trouble. He sprints for the gate and he makes it out just in time. The text says the castle vanishes completely and he finds himself alone in the empty desert under the stars.
That transition is brutal. 1 second, you are surrounded by the ultimate symbol of material wealth, and the next millisecond, you are standing in the freezing dark, holding absolutely nothing. It's a stark reminder of that theme we talked about earlier, the impermanence of worldly things.
This leads us to what I'm calling the loop, because a normal person would say, okay, that was weird, I almost died, I'm going home. But he doesn't.
No, he enters a cycle of obsession.
He returns the next night. Sunset comes, castle appears, he runs in. Night falls, it disappears. He does this night after night.
This is the psychological torture of the curse. It's Tantalus. The prize is right there. He can touch it. He can feel the weight of the gold coins. But he cannot possess them. It's a prison of proximity. He is close enough to touch it, but the rules of the universe prevent him from keeping it.
It sounds exhausting. Eventually, he hits a breaking point. The text says he was exhausted and desperate. He's sitting by a small spring near where the castle usually appears, and this is where the story pivots. He's not alone.
Enter the exposition dump, courtesy of the mysterious old woman.
The classic crone by the spring. She looks at him and basically says, yeah, you look terrible. You're not the first guy to try this.
She functions as the keeper of the lore. She reveals that this isn't just a magical anomaly. It's a specific targeted curse with a history.
So here's the backstory she reveals. Long ago, a beautiful fairy princess lived in this castle. A cruel prince from a distant land wanted to marry her.
And she exercised her right to say no.
Exactly. She rejected him, and this prince, being a rational, well-adjusted guy, decided to curse her and her entire kingdom.
It's a reaction born of pure ego. If I can't have you, no one can. But look at the specific nature of the curse. He didn't just kill them, he trapped them in non-existence. Every night they vanish and every sunrise they return. Empty, lifeless. It's a suspended animation.
The old woman explains that no one can take the treasures unless the curse is broken. So the castle is basically a secure storage facility built on spite.
A monument to rejection, essentially.
But there's a way out. The old woman gives him the instructions. And this is where the story gets incredibly specific and strange. It requires 3 steps. First, enter at sunset. Easy. He's been doing that.
Second, stay awake until midnight. Now think about the implication there. He has to stay inside the castle while it vanishes. Or does his presence anchor it somehow?
The text implies that if he commits to the ritual, the castle remains in a sort of limbo state. But he has to stay awake in this empty, trembling building until the witching hour.
That's the vigil. That is a test of will.
And then comes the third and hardest part. The instructions are, when the fairy princess appears, he has to speak her name 3 times and say, I love you with all my heart.
Okay, stop. We have to unpack this. I love you with all my heart. He has never met her. He doesn't even know her name until the old woman tells him. He is a stranger.
Right. It feels like a setup. How can you truthfully declare love to a complete stranger you've never seen? It sounds like a lie.
Unless we are misunderstanding the definition of love in this context, or unless the curse is flawed. But before we get to the philosophy, look at the stakes. The old woman warns him, if your words are true, the curse will break. If not, you will become part of the castle forever.
Part of the castle? That chills me. Does that mean he becomes a gold brick in the wall? Or a statue?
Given the context of the story, where the inhabitants return lifeless at sunrise, it likely means he becomes another frozen figure in the tableau. He loses his agency. He becomes an object. It's the ultimate objectification punishment for a crime of false emotion.
So he has a choice. walk away alive but poor, or risk becoming furniture for a chance at the jackpot. And because he is who he is, he goes for it.
The greed or the adventure outweighs the fear.
The sun sets, the castle reappears, he walks in, and now the waiting game begins.
This midnight vigil is key. Imagine sitting in that vast golden hall. The silence must be deafening. He has hours to think about whether he can actually pull this off. He has to manufacture an emotion strong enough to fool ancient magic.
Midnight strikes, the atmosphere shifts. The text says the castle was gold and sunlight, but now the princess appears glowing like moonlight.
The visual language shifts from the harsh masculine sun, which is gold, to the softer feminine moon, which is silver or light. It signals the arrival of the truth moment.
She is standing there. This is it. He speaks her name 3 times, and then he looks at this glowing spectral figure and says, "I love you with all my heart."
And this is the climax. The universe holds its breath. Is he lying?
The princess smiles sadly, and she says, "You speak the truth."
You speak the truth. That is the line that keeps me up at night regarding this story.
Why? Because he clearly doesn't know her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how can it be the truth? There are 2 possibilities here. One, the magic is easily tricked by a good performance. But that feels weak. 2, in that moment, he did love her. Think about what she represents. She is the heart of the miracle. She is the center of this impossible golden world. He is an adventurer who lives for wonder. When he sees her, he isn't just seeing a woman. He's seeing the embodiment of the magic he has spent his life chasing.
So he loves the moment. He loves the scenario.
He loves the mirage. And because she is the mirage, he loves her. His heart was filled with an overwhelming appreciation for the beauty and the magic in front of him. And maybe, just maybe, the curse didn't distinguish between romantic love and that kind of awestruck devotion.
That is a fascinating angle. His love was for the story he was living, and that was true enough to shatter the lock.
Precisely.
So the curse breaks, the castle doesn't vanish, the treasures stay solid, the statues come back to life. It's a victory.
But then comes the twist. And this is where the story completely subverts the fairy tale romance expectation.
The princess looks at the young man. She is free. But instead of saying, "My hero, let's get married," she says, "The treasure is yours, but I must leave this world. Farewell."
I must leave this world. That confirms that they weren't just sleeping, they were gone. They were essentially ghosts tethered to the spot by the curse. Breaking the curse didn't resurrect them. It released them.
She vanishes like mist. She's gone. He doesn't get the girl.
And honestly, I don't think he wanted the girl. I think he wanted the win.
Well, he definitely wanted the payout. The text says he loaded his camels with gold and jewels. He stripped the place.
It creates a very transactional resolution. He performed a service breaking the curse, and he received his payment, the gold. The princess gets her freedom, which is death or the afterlife, and he gets his wealth.
He returns to Baghdad a rich man. The story wraps up by saying he lived the rest of his life in peace and luxury, always remembering the night the cursed castle finally stayed.
It's a very grounded ending for such a high fantasy story. There is no moral punishment for his greed. He effectively gamed the system.
But it feels a little lonely, doesn't it? He ends up with piles of gold, but the only person who really knew him in that moment, the princess who validated his truth, vanished immediately.
That's the price of the adventurer. You get the story and you get the souvenir, but you don't get the connection. He is an observer, not a participant in her world. He was just the key that unlocked the door.
So if we zoom out, what is the takeaway for us? We have a guy who essentially faked it till he made it, or loved the adventure more than the person, and walked away rich.
I think the lesson is about the nature of truth. We tend to think of truth as this objective, unchangeable thing. But in this story, truth was subjective. It was about intent in the moment.
He committed to the bit.
He did. He committed so fully that reality bent around him. It suggests that if you believe in your own desire strongly enough, whether it's for gold or love or just to survive, that belief has power.
And also, maybe don't reject a sorcerer prince unless you have good home insurance.
Or a very persistent adventurer nearby.
Exactly. It's a story about persistence, about the blurred lines between greed and wonder, and about how sometimes the truth is just what you feel in the heat of the moment.
And that sometimes the mirage is worth chasing, even if it might disappear on you.
A momentary truth that bought a lifetime of luxury. Not a bad trade-off if you can survive the night.
Not bad at all.
Okay.
Just check the fine print next time you find a golden castle.
Good advice. That's it for this deep dive into the midnight legacy of the Gilded Mirage. Thanks for exploring the desert with us.
Keep seeking those wonders.
See you next time.